Thumbs up for everybody. Excellent. So, first of all, we appreciate everybody's patience with us. This is a bit of a learning curve. We did a Zoom meeting with the Delaware Valley Triumph Club last month, and it fell somewhere between a major success and a major disaster. We have learned now that the microphone has to be just one mic that's tied with the camera, and we can show you what we've been doing, the work on each car. So I think we have control of the audio right now, and I'll start over with the Morgan. This 1954 Morgan Plus 4 was delivered to the Paris Morgan dealer and in April of 54. The gentleman who was stationed in the service went and picked it up and had he married his wife shortly. They traveled all over Europe, and they came back here to the States in Connecticut, in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and finally settled in the Philadelphia area. Now live, and they're retired in Westchester. So it's a one-owner car from 54 to present day. And something special about this is that this car was worked on by Mike, who's standing by our side here, Mike Engard, the owner of Ragtops Roadsters, when he was an employee prior to forming Ragtops Roadsters, which was 30 years ago. By the way, we're celebrating our 30th anniversary amidst the COVID-19. We hope to have some events later this year to celebrate the anniversary of 30 years of being in business. So Mike worked on this car and did mechanical work on this car in the mid-90s before forming Ragtops and Roadsters in 1990. We have cared for this car as long as I've been working with Mike here. This client has had the car in and out, and we have cared for this car for many years. And regretfully, he certainly does not want to part with it. It's been very emotional for him to do so. It came in last fall. We worked on it over the winter, and we brought it back up to good mechanical shape. We went through and did exhaust and all those things that sit with atrophy with time. It runs nice and strong. It shifts great, has good power, and just came back from a full detail, and it's really a top shelf car. It was resprayed in the mid-90s. It's a matching numbers engine from what we can tell. It's the right series, the right time. It is a plus 4. Hold on a second. Let me pass the mic away, and I will open the bonnet. Very presentable under the bonnet. You can see a new fuel pump there. And again, we've gone through it to freshen it for its next owner. Close this side here. And I'll walk around the other side and open up the carburetor side.
Is it in kilometers or?
Side.
Dave,
again,
is it
very
in
presentable.
kilometers?
A very strong driver, and it's being offered at $34,500. And if anybody's interested, or if anybody knows anyone interested, please have us get in touch. Also, a little bit of housekeeping here. Some of you do get our newsletter. Some of you might not. Feel free to send us an email at dave@ragtops.com. We'd be happy to put you on our newsletter list. You can check out our website at ragtops.com. We're often listing some new cars for sale. Some people, we've taken good care of the cars over the years, and they're looking to retire and move south and just kind of downsize. So we're seeing a trend in the marketplace there. Car comes complete with full top, tonneau, side curtains, fit very nice. And as I said, it runs very strong. So if you have any questions about it, actually the mileage is just under 60,000, 59,000 and change. Strong, good oil pressure, and runs cool. Comes with a quarter tank of fuel. We'll throw in a fill-up at $34,500. So let's see who else might be waiting here at this point. Nobody. I think everybody else is good. Does anybody have a question? We can unmute you and go from there. That's the power of Zoom. I see a question from Bruce. Hold on just a second, please. Mike, can you find Bruce? I can't see it. Yeah. Shelley, yeah.
Yeah.
So he has a question.
It was French delivered. Is it in kilometers or miles?
59,000 and change.
And the speedometer is in miles.
Is it in miles?
Correct.
Correct. Miles per hour, yes. All Morgan Smith gauges. And it's in pretty good.
A rare
pretty
white
good shape.
steering wheel.
You want to see the steering wheel closer?
No, but it's rare to see a white steering wheel in decent shape.
Yeah. Okay, John Moffat, I believe you have a question?
Yeah, Dave. Looking at the wings, it looks like they been off the car. They've got the exposed, the fasteners, the bolts.
The welding.
Yeah, no, not just the welding, but the actual bolts that are holding the wings onto the front, the fenders. Looks like.
I don't see what you're saying, John.
Okay, if you look at
I
the
suspect
wings
it
again.
I suspect the wings were removed when this car was painted in the 90s.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. SU carburetors, right? Got
Yes,
and a rare air cleaner.
the tapered air cleaner. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. 2 spares, solid wheels. And I drove it, and it's a spirited ride.
Any suspension issues as far as springs and shocks and whatever?
No, we went through a safety check that adheres to PA state inspection, and it did not fail for any suspension. We did some brake work to the car. We did exhaust work. We did basically fuel and brakes, from when they sit for a while, and went through it and sorted it out. And the owner will confirm it'll pass a PA state inspection, and it runs well.
And what about the drum brakes in the front?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
Drum brakes in the front, not disc.
No, there are disc brakes in the front.
Disc brakes in the front. Good.
Correct, Ryan? Yes.
Okay.
He's going for the picture there for the disc brakes. There we go.
No, they're drums.
Oh, I'm sorry, they are drums. They grab very well for drums.
What was the first year for disc brakes? I had them on my 64.
I think as late as
Mark?
some 59s had them, I think.
This is a 54
Right.
and a +4.
Yeah.
Anybody know in the group, when did they first start putting the TR4 engines in them? TR3 engines. I think it was the Vanguard engine, actually in 50. Yeah. So this may be a Vanguard engine. I'm calling it a TR2, but in 54, it may still have been the Vanguard. Then they went into the TR2 engines, TR3 engines. Any other questions? Feel free to raise your hand. Okay, Bruce, would you like to start off the auction? He's
Membership to MOPS. We'll throw that
I'm sorry,
in.
say again, Bruce.
I said if whoever buys it will throw in a year membership to Moms.
Absolutely. Very good. So Mike is going to be our host here and manage people as far as questions go. Ryan and I are going to take a walk downstairs, and we'll show you some of the projects we're working on. And we'll go through the Morgan 4.4 we have in various states of restoration right now downstairs. So, as they say, walk this way. Actually, you can pan over here, and right here is a Triumph TR6, and we found quite a few of these frames going bad lately. Cars that passed inspection recently in recent years, but are failing inspection now. The perforation of the frames have gotten to the point where they weakened them, and they either need extensive repair or replacement. This is one that we replaced with a Ratco frame made in Long Island, square tubular steel, very strong, heavier than the original TR frame, probably $5,000 for the frame, and obviously the labor involved in swapping everything over and freshening everything as you go along. But this is the first Ratco frame we've done, and to our right here, Ryan will pan over, this is the TR6 body that will be going on the car probably in the next week. We're waiting for some parts. The part stream is getting a little bit better, but we're waiting on some body shims, I believe, at this point in time for this project. Behind it is a Series 1 66 E-Type coupe, and the paint was done at our sister shop at Pollock Motor Restoration in Pottstown, and we got the engine running. It was a known to be good engine, but unfortunately the clutch was seized, and we could not free it as much as we tried. So the engine just came out last week, was just put in back in yesterday with a new clutch, new pressure plate, went over the flywheel, and now mechanically that it will be made to run. It will go back to our sister shop. They're going to continue with the interior, fit the glass and trim. The bonnet's already in paint, and pretty much finish up the car. We may do some mechanical sorting here when it's all said and done, but that's a project that should be on the road by, I would think, the end of this year, maybe early next spring. But that's coming along. 66 Series 1 E-Type coupe. All right, so we'll head downstairs, guys. Watch your step. And when you come to the bottom of the steps here, as Ryan walks down, and to my left is an MGTF. I believe it's a 1955. This was brought to us by a gentleman who's local, actually, in the Chalfont area, and he'd been helping his brother with the car, doing as much as possible, and got to the depths of his talent and brought it to us. That was about a year ago. We've had the engine out. We've gone over this car quite extensively. His brother lives in Hawaii. So he wants it sorted, well sorted, driven, so that we have a good sense of reliability with the car. And again, a driver class restoration. This is a car he had from his youth. And we'll be sorting through this over the next couple of weeks and probably heading out west on transporter. I'm going to say probably by the end of the summer, maybe sooner, depending upon what it throws at us. As everybody knows who's ever sorted a British car, it can be fraught with all kinds of challenges. That's the best way to say it. So I'm going to walk you through the shop, and we're going to head back to the Morgan project. On my right is an XJS, a 6-cylinder XJS, automatic, 6-cylinder, in what we're told is original paint, in pretty good condition. We're going through the car to be able to sort through it and prep it so that it can pass inspection and be offered for sale for someone new to love this car. These 6-cylinders, great buys, and they're not as problematic as the 12-cylinders. Off to our left on the lift, it's a 1949 Triumph 2000. This was purchased by a collector who's brought us other cars, and after this, we're going to go over to London taxi for him. And this particular car was purchased for his collection as a restored car. But the brakes needed work, the fuel delivery system, all those things that make a good car a great car, some of these things were ignored. So we've gone through it, ready for some parts now. It'll be a nice driver. If anybody's ever driven these are kind of the more mundane Triumphs. The power is just not there. It's a heavy car with a small Vanguard engine. This predated the Triumph TR2. To my right, to your left, under this blue cover, is a Mercedes 190. Now this car has been quite an effort. We sourced a rebuilder for these engines. This car also, hard time getting out of its own way. A Mercedes engine builder on the West Coast has the experience and rebuilt this engine. This is not the original engine of the car, but it is a Mercedes engine that was in a car a little bit later than this, will develop probably 30 to 40% more power. Still using the 4-speed gearbox. The paint was done by our sister shop at Pollock, and it's gorgeous inside, black with red. I'll move this cover so you can kind of get a glimpse in here. Ryan will take the camera over. And this is going to be a sharp car when it's all done. Now, under the hood, we're fitting air conditioning to this. Alternator. So this is certainly going to have modern improvements and still the vintage look of a Mercedes 190. And it should go a little quicker too. Moving on. A Jaguar V12 engine that came in a Jaguar V12. And this particular engine has given us some challenges. I'm going to move this plastic here. You can see the cams were just set in the cam boxes. There was a lot of machining work, and we had problems with one of the heads and had to source another head. So when I give a tour of the shop and talk about these engines, I tell people that if you can avoid these engines can drain your wallet with both hands at the same time. This is where you're all supposed to be laughing. Okay. Behind me is a Hawk Cobra. This is a British-built replica of the AC Cobra. This particular car is powered by an MGB engine, and it is right drive, if you notice. The owner purchased the car, had it shipped here to the States, and wants us to convert it to left drive. And the engine was smoking and tired. So the engine was pulled, disassembled. We're building it to original specs, and we're going to fit it with a Moss supercharger. They claim approximately 50% increase in horsepower. I think an MGB puts out 70 to 80 horsepower, so this should be around 130. And it's going to be a spirited ride. We have a lot of work ahead of us to convert the right drive to the left drive. The engine is at the machine shop. It'll come back, we'll build it. And now this is where we segue to the car immediately to Ryan's right, because this Triumph TR250 is a car that we did fit a Moss supercharger on. I'm thinking now that's 13 or 14 years ago, right when they came out. The Moss supercharger is a great add-on. They're not inexpensive, but what I like about them is the power is linear and progressive, and you can drive it as a docile grocery getter to go out and get a cup of coffee. But when you stick your foot in it, it goes like a bat out of hell. So fast that the owner of this car had us put a 5-speed in it shortly after we did the supercharger. So, moving forward, we have a Lotus Alon that's come in for some work. And anybody who knows what Lotus stands for is lots of trouble, usually serious. Now, this particular car is a running, driving car, but it's tired and requires to have the engine removed so we can properly rebuild the water pump, believe it or not. That's what's required with the twin cams. And we're in the process of getting some approval from the client to move forward. To my right is a white Lotus Elite. This is a Series 1. Good, I had a question. This is the Series 1 right drive Lotus Elite. This car came in from an owner in Pittsburgh, and we have had the engine out, and we've done the water pump and freshened everything with the gaskets in the engine and gone over suspensions, and it's going back together. These are lovely cars. For those of you who don't know or heard about the Lotus Elite, this car weighs about 1,450 pounds, somewhere in there. You can tune the engine to get over 100 horsepower, great power to weight ratio. It's the Cobra Climax engine. And it's very nimble and very, very quick in its handling. The uniqueness of this car, or all the other cars you've seen so far tonight, is that this is a prelude to the carbon fiber monocoque that's done today. This is 4 separate layers of fiberglass, individual layups, and the suspension bolts into receivers, whatever you call them, embedded in the fiberglass. So the suspension is bolted to the fiberglass monocoque, if you will. They were, as I said, spirited cars. They raced, they were successful. The problem is when they crashed, they broke in half, caught on fire, and burned. So there is no metal suspension from the front suspension to the rear suspension. Everything's embedded again in the fiberglass. Very revolutionary for 1959. All right, this brings us to our work at hand. And this is where I'm going to walk over and introduce you to somebody. Eugene, how you doing?
Good.
There you go. There's the microphone. There we go. This is Eugene Turner. He's a graduate of Pennsylvania College of Technology. He came here 5 years ago, as an intern, did a summer internship, and then we just can't get rid of him since then. He loves his work. He's passionate about British cars. He and his dad collect lots of cars. How many cars you got now?
I have no idea.
He has no idea how many cars. He's somewhere around 30 years old. He has no idea how many cars he has. He's a true car guy. So Eugene has been the lead man recently on what we're here tonight to talk about, is the Morgan project. We'll start by walking around the yellow body shell that you see that's up on sawhorses. This client came to us with this car in 2015. It's coming together. And what he wanted to do was drive it and mechanically freshen it and go out and enjoy it. So the engine was rebuilt, the gearbox was going through and rebuilt, and we did all the mechanicals so that he was happy. He went out and drove the car. He actually got a couple seasons in with it. But then the wood. Anybody who's a Morgan owner knows what this means. Okay? The wood was very, very sad, and still is. If you look at this sill plate, it's rotted, corroded, well, not corroded, but rotted. Here's a piece right here. And the attachment to here is weak. The door threshold is very weak, perforated. And as I was saying before, when you look at the hinges on a wood door, if you have this kind of movement, this structure needs to be completely rebuilt. So we weren't just looking at the typical damage that happens from water, road wash. This had suffered a lot of neglect over the years and was left out in the weather. Now, when he came in, for the rebuild, he knew we were going to do the body. We saw that this section of the body had sprung loose from the corner bead. And this is where I'm going to pass the microphone off to Eugene, and he's going to show you what came out of this car. Get that piece over there. And what he did to fix it. All right. There you go.
One of the issues this car had was it was hit in the back. You can see here there's a dent. This actually bowed the whole frame in, which caused a few issues fitting the new body. We noticed that as soon as we put it on. And once we got all the wood floors out, we noticed all the rot that was underneath of the wood.
And this structure was perforated.
Yes, this is the rear cross member. It mounts the rear suspension as well. And if you look here on the other side of it, it's also got a hole right where the suspension mounts. So that was in much need of repair. There's a box full of rust right here. That was everything inside the cross member.
You guys have seen rust before, right? This is where they should be smiling and laughing. Okay.
And
Okay.
while working through this car, we found a few other rust issues with it as well.
Now Eugene's going to, this is the particular member, the replacement that Eugene fabricated and welded in. This is the rearmost cross member in the Morgan. Okay. When we talked about this earlier, the original car, actually the tail end of the frame was narrower there, correct?
Yes, the whole back of the frame was pitched in on itself, drawn in. And that was from the accident damage on that rear cross member. So once that got crossed out, I had to figure out the proper positions to get the rails so the suspension aligns properly and the body would mount correctly to this frame.
So what else did you do to the frame? When you took the old body off and you had the frame there, what did you see and what did you do?
One of the things we noticed with this frame, once we got the body off, is there's a lot of pitting all on the bottom corners of where the frame angles out and you get all your structure from. So we ended up, the owner wanted to keep the originality of the original frame, so we ended up reinforcing the whole frame with angle iron along the outsides, which you will not notice when the body's all together and the car's on the ground.
So Ryan's showing you the angle iron that was put on the outside of the frame, pretty much from the engine bracket all the way back to the rear suspension. Now it's very common that Morgans crack the frame right near the scuttle. And this certainly will prevent that from happening and stiffen up that frame a lot.
This one was actually cracked and repaired before.
This one was cracked and repaired before. Right, right. So let's discuss what you did back here.
The owner of this car loved his original roll bar and he wanted to continue using it, but one of the issues with it was somebody had mounted it in the wood floors and also cut these sections out of this wooden box here, which is part of your frame structure. And because of that, I had to move the whole roll bar back and remake the whole kickbacks that go to the rear of the frame. This plate here is I installed so we can mount the roll bar to this. It is to SCCA specification on thickness and how it's mounted. So if he wanted to mount a roll bar that would be trackable, he has the option to.
So that flat plate that's about 12 inches long and the width of the car from one frame rail to the other was not Morgan.
Correct.
This was something you fabricated out of 1/8-inch steel to give a solid base to the roll bar, because before it was mounted in wood, which is not kosher. No,
not a good idea at all.
not a good idea.
You hit a bump in the wrong way and that thing could hit you in the back of the head.
So in doing so, the rear was removed. The springs have new bushings. We replaced what we needed to do, verified everything else is good, and moved forward. Now, it should be said that this body is temporarily mounted on here. It will be going to our sister shop, Pollock, for paint. The wood will be cleaned, the metal will be cleaned, the wood will be treated properly to seal it, and then the paint applications will begin. The dash is loose right now. Can you show us where it needs to be modified? The structure needs to be modified a bit?
If you run into a few problems with the new bodies, and I'm sure you would try to change a body from any Morgan to any other one, you can see here that your rev counter is going to be interfering right here no matter where you put the dash, so that's going to have to get trimmed back.
Okay.
A few of the other differences I noticed between this body and the original body is the doors are slightly longer, which almost caused some issues with the windshield frame, but it mounted perfectly.
So you mounted the windshield to make sure it was going to fit the new body from the old body.
Correct.
There are differences.
Yep.
Okay. And the doors you say are slightly longer?
Just slightly.
Just slightly.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So the windshield will come off, the dash will come out. It's getting ready to go to Pollock for paint. So tell us what you have up here with the carburation.
The owners decided he wanted to add some power to this car. When the engine was rebuilt, we put a hot cam in this engine, along with the roller rockers, and needed the aluminum valve cover to clear those. His next upgrade was this, I believe it's a 32 Weber double downdraft. And we also have a header pipe that's out for coating. We received this header for this car, but learned it was for a right-hand drive car, and this being a left, the pipes had to be modified slightly to fit.
Okay, so at this point in time, the exhaust manifold is being coated, and that'll come back, and the intake and exhaust will be fitted up, and the engine runs, and it's been broken in a couple seasons.
Yes, and this carburetor and exhaust was all fitted, and it all operates as it should. So once we get the manifold back, it's a matter of reinstall.
Great. And I noticed on the casting, on the block, it says it's a 116E.
Yes, this is the 1.6 liter Kent Ford block.
And if my research is correct, this engine was employed by Morgan from 1962 to 68. And it was just before the Crossflow was developed.
Yes, and this car's is 63.
This is a 1963, right? We went over the brakes about 5 years ago. We'll certainly go over them again and make sure everything's good there. What else can we tell the folks about this rust you have here?
On disassembly of the whole bulkhead here, it was noticed, well, it all needed to be POR 15 cleaned up and repainted. During this process, you have these rubber mats and this toolbox. I removed them so I could get to all the sections and get them all treated. I found a lot of rust and debris inside this toolbox and underneath of these mats. You can see Dave's holding the panel that was underneath this toolbox.
So there was a rubber mat on top of this, and that trapped the moisture in there, again, perforating the metal. And Eugene replaced it with a new sheet of metal, and here's the extra.
Yeah,
We save every bit.
if you dig through there, I found a pencil and some change inside of
there's a
this
penny in there,
toolbox.
too.
Yep.
Yeah, in the toolbox. I'd be curious to see what the date is on the penny.
I did not check.
Not check. Right. Maybe it's an Indian head or something. I don't know. I'm not a coin person, but anyhow, it's in there, sure. So at this point, you're getting close to setting it to Pollock?
Yeah, we just need to fit a few more items to it, make sure a few more things are going to be correct,
Okay.
and then it's ready to be all treated and painted.
Okay. I think we've just about covered it, folks. Now, this is the point where we, if you want to raise your hand and ask a question, we're happy to try and answer them for you.
I have
You
nothing. so
mean
I'm gonna
there's
say
no
goodnight.
questions?
I'm going to say goodnight to everybody and leave. Nice seeing everybody. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, Mark, take care of yourself. We'll see you.
See you.
Good night.
Night.
Okay, signed off. So the fenders, the wings have been fitted to the body.
Yes.
And they'll be going over to Pollock as well. And the front cowl and the inner fenders will all be painted. I think he's planning on doing a similar color.
I've heard a few different things. I'm not sure he's fully decided yet. I've heard almost a French racing blue, British racing green, or the original yellow.
Okay, okay. And this is a darker yellow than it would have been.
Yes, and I'm not 100% sure what the color on this one would have originally been. It's definitely been yellow a couple times, green and red.
Okay. And I trust you've already fitted up the fuel tank
Yes.
that we show back here. And the owner of the car is a woodworker. And he's making the floors for the car and the rear deck. So we're waiting for that to install the fuel tank and do the final fit on that. So we're making good progress. And it's nice to be on the building side of the project instead of the disassembly side. And I guess at this point, if there's any other questions, we're still happy to entertain them for you.
How many
A couple
hours?
things.
How many hours have you got into it right now?
I'm not sure of how many hours we're into it, to tell you the truth.
I was just curious.
Yeah. It's a lot of time, a lot of fitting. But the owner is happy with our progress. We're looking forward to seeing him in the car finished. And certainly not this season, but potentially next year. Okay.
Right.
So a couple of things that I just wanted to mention to folks. We want to show you this custom roll bar first before we go, with the custom battery box at the bottom. And this is what fits to the metal plate that Eugene fabricated in the bottom of the car.
The hoop is original.
The hoop's original.
There was a few issues with the whole assembly when it came in. One of them, from whatever happened to the back of this car, one of the kickbacks was bent. And when I moved it back, I had to change the angle of the kickback so it would clear the suspension and all of that. And the battery box had to actually get shrunk to a smaller size battery to clear the rear axle.
Okay. Good, thanks for sharing that. So on the shelves in front of the Morgan where we're building are all the parts labeled, bagged, tagged, ready for reassembly. Some will have to be rebuilt, reconditioned. We use a lot of shelving here to keep track of everything. Again, a couple housekeeping issues. If you'd like to receive our newsletter, send an email to dave@ragtops.com. I'd be happy to put you on for our next newsletter. It comes out monthly. It's event-based. Not many events right now, unfortunately. But what seems to be shaking out of all of it is the driving events seem to be getting renewed, or people looking different ways to enjoy our cars, which is driving them, which is great. We're hosting a covered bridge tour on Flag Day on the 14th of June, Sunday, the 14th of June. And if you're interested in attending, what we're going to do is observe CDC guidelines. We're meeting in a parking lot where there's a McDonald's, and we'll all get breakfast at the drive-thru. We'll meet. We'll stay apart from everybody in the parking lot. We're going to head out on a tour, and we're going to see about 5 bridges in the first hour and 45 minutes. We're going to have a stop here at the shop to use a clean bathroom, a shop clean bathroom. Okay. And then we're going to saddle up again, see a couple more bridges, head west to Royersford, Pennsylvania, and we're going to have our lunch at Sonic. Sonic is a fast food place that brings their meal out to you at the car. And then we're going to go across the river and see 3 more bridges and find some ice cream and call it a day. If you're interested in joining us, there is no fee. It's just a matter of signing up, first come, first serve. We only have 20 spots because we don't want to overload the restaurants we're going to be at. And we just want to take this easily as we can all come back. So, and again, if you want to see the newsletter at dave@ragtops.com, you can find our website at ragtops.com and see the other projects. We're constantly updating our works in progress page and our completed work so you can see what we've done and what we're working on at this point. we hope to have a full staff back as of Monday. And at this point in time, we've been going for 46 minutes. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think we did good. So at this point, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I'll be quiet for just one more second. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I'll ask one question, Dave.
Okay.
If you were to take a new job in for prepping and painting a drop head coupe, what kind of lead time would you require? In other
I'm going to
words-
say probably this time 4 to 6 weeks minimum. I'd have to talk to our manager at the paint shop to see.
Okay,
But if you're interested in doing so, please call the shop or email me, and we can certainly discuss the level of work and the attention that your car needs.
yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
You're
Dave,
very welcome.
Dave,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to thank you for entertaining us tonight. I thought it was excellent.
Yep.
And it looks like you're doing a great job on that, Morgan. One question I wonder is the extra support on the frame going to change the handling of the car?
We're going to let you know about that, Bruce. I expect that the back crossmember will not change the handling that much. However, the strengthening of the entire frame down both sides may stiffen it overall. And that may affect our shock selection or tire pressure, because it will, this comes from the age when it was flexible chassis, stiff suspension. And if the chassis is a little less flexible, then we're going to have to deal with that.